Hi, welcome to another video on my Raspberry Pi 2 using Ubuntu Linux and the Robot operating system. Last time I managed to get the data completely passing through from the publisher to the subscriber. The only thing that did not work was getting the motor to work. And when I put a transistor in, it did nothing, and upon measuring it turned out that there was practically no voltage over it. So the question is, how can I solve that? How do I solve it? And one of the first things that I do is or that I want to do now is, if you see here, there is no data because, and let me show you on camera, because now I press it and you see immediately the data going to 1, and that is all I can see. 0 and 1, 0 and 1. I want to have a real physical proof of that. So what I'm going to do here, and here means with this wire and this resistor, is putting an LED in between. So I'm talking about this little LED. Let me determine which direction. Yes. So I am changing this wire a little bit to another lane, and I should be taking care that, or I should take care that it doesn't go wrong with this wire. Alright, now it's nicely in. And this LED should go in like this, so from one lane to another, and then now I have this little LED. I should be able to press and see the LED light up. The question is, yes, and there you actually see the LED light up. So when I keep pressing it, you can see the obvious thing that the LED keeps burning. And now I look at a lower terminal window to see, and I notice that the data doesn't stay 0 all the time. It changes from 1 to 0, and that's no good. It should say 1 until I release the switch. And you'll see that the LED keeps burning. Let me change the light intensity so you actually see the light burning nicely. I release the switch and I press it, and the LED responds nicely. But here, every now and then there comes a 0 in between, even more zeros than one. So how is this possible? How can the data be 0 while the LED keeps burning? That's something odd. Another thing is that with this LED doesn't do anything, and that is weird. So I can check if this LED is actually working. So I think that I should move this wire here, take this LED and put it in here. Oops, now I have to look for the, yes, this is the way. So I put it here, that is also possible. Press the switch and it works. So there's nothing wrong with this LED. Instead it is this part of the circuit that is a bit wrong. So that's an oops, I have to check that out. Possibly because there is hardly any voltage over this part of the circuit, which I have to solve, of course. Another point is that going back to this circuit with transistor, LED and resistor, I want to see if there is some signal on this side of the transistor. So what I will do is for now remove this resistor and put this LED into the circuit. Which should give some light if there is any signal. However, right now there is no signal. And something else that you see is this LED is now off because the switch is not pressed. And what do you see here? It's 1. And now I press the switch and you obviously can see that the LED responds, but at the same time when it is not pressed it is 1. So something is definitely not correct. I probably need to change the code for that. On the other hand, it will not work at all unless I get this part of the circuit working. And let me show you more accurately. So this LED is to show the activity of the switch, which is here, and this LED shows the activity for the for pin 7 of the GPIO. Oops, here. And this LED shows any signal to the mass, to the ground. And right now nothing is showing. So what's wrong? That is a bit hard to say right now. It also means that pin 7, is it pin 7? Yes, this is pin 7, has no signal. Otherwise it would give anything. So I will check for other GPIOs, but what I also need to do is run a check if all the outputs are correct. But first thing to do is to change here GPIO 7 to something else, and I need to know which one I can take, so that's another point. Let's see, let me just gamble and take 8. Now I know I can take 9. I know I can take 9, but from last time I remember that didn't help either. I tried 9, 11 and 13 and neither helped. That was the problem. So it's no use changing wire. So what is the solution then? Apart from this, which is by the way a nice idea, because when I look here, it reads from input. So what I can do is making sure that the I is 0 beforehand. I think that is a very good one. So let me exit the publisher and say that is a nice one. The publisher doesn't end. Now the ends. I had caps lock on, so it didn't see the Ctrl+C properly. So what I will do is say, okay, here I is 0, and then it becomes either 1 or 0. I think that's a good one. Let's start again. There you go. And now it gives all zeros but also ones, and that is not correct, because the let me go back to the other one. Yes, if you see, I'm not pressing the switch now, and if I press the switch, the LED is burning, and yet you see zeros coming by in still in this window, so something still not correct. Experimenting can be nice, can be dull, and sometimes you get unexpected results. So right now I'm focusing on the circuit with the transistor, and you can see that although things in this are high in this window without me pressing the switch, but that is an aside. Pin 7 should be high. Well, if pin 7 is high, this LED should be doing something, but it isn't. So I figure, what if I remove this transistor for the time being? The motor is supposed to run when the transistor, but I took this this resistor out in favor of this LED. So now I'm putting the resistor back, and I slightly push it against jump wire and LED and see what happens. I'm not quite sure if you can actually see what happens, so I dim the light. And actually both LEDs burn. not very brightly, but at least you can see the left one burning very brightly. The other one is hidden, is more or less hidden behind some wires, but it's burning. So when I put this transistor back in place, it actually seems to block everything. So there is signal, but then is the question, why doesn't the motor work? I actually have no real answer to that, unfortunately. But at least I do know by this short experiment that there's nothing wrong with the pins. And when I press the switch, this LED starts burning. Let me remove this. Now nothing is burning, of course, because there's no, and let me put it here and here. Now both LEDs are burning, this one and this one, although you can't see it. Let me show you from the top. Yeah, now you can see it. The lower LED is from the switch, and the upper two LEDs are with the removed transistor. And because of the lower terminal window where you see the one constantly coming, which is not entirely correct, they keep burning. So I'm wondering why that is. Anyway, I'm removing this again, putting the transistor back in place. So although a very nice experiment, it still doesn't run the motor, and that is still the objective of this whole experiment. And while this circuit isn't working appropriately, this isn't working either, because I'm not touching the switch. So what is causing the one here? This is the publisher. No, this is the publisher. And if input 11 is 1, the input is 1, and it definitely prints 1 here. So something to the input is not correct. That is the only conclusion I can make out of it. Which also may mean that I have to put LEDs here. And where else does it go? Here. I have to put 2 more LEDs and see why exactly it goes wrong, although that's not entirely true. I need to put an LED onto pin 11, because pin 11 is where it all comes down to. Let me do that. So in order to see what is actually going on here, just like what is going on here, I want to see what the actual input is. So going back to the camera, and then this is the actual input to pin 11. So the only way I can make sure that something is shown is to put this one here. I need to give better lighting. So I put this wire here. This wire I am going to put one lane further. So now the one is here, and then another LED, and I hope that one goes well, is going here. And my only hope is that it will actually work the way I intend it to. Alright, that one thing. So does it work the way I think it does? Let's press the switch. It doesn't look like it at all. So is the switch, well, the switch does work as indicated by this LED. But as said, this should work as well, and this is input, but the input doesn't show a thing. So is it input or is it not? And that is the big question. From what I think, it actually is not. So I think there may be a big problem. But how to really measure it, that's another one. I can't put it to 0 because high becomes low then as well. Should I reverse the LED? I can try that. So taking this one out for a moment, reversing, turning around the LED, putting it back. I don't think that matters. Nothing at all even. Nope. So I'm putting it back the way it was. Wait, that's another thing. Can I do it anyway like this? That's another very good question. I start doubting that very much, because you need a high and a low end, and maybe there's another solution. So when it comes to data, more specifically data from this switch, which enables this LED that you can see blinking, but that does not entirely comply to what the data here is. I'm not pressing the switch and yet the data is 1 and 0, etc. Yet this part of the input is what the switch should be, or exactly the opposite. This should be what the switch indicates and gives. Then there is an output that is true or false, and when you look at the circuit with the transistor, then it turns out that it works without a transistor therein, and that's confusing, because so far you know that a motor works on 5 volts. So when I leave the transistor as is and I put one on 5 volts and one on actually the ground, what happens then? Then the motor works. And let me show. Now you see the motor working. But that is solely because I put one wire in the minus into the ground. And the objective is to do it via transistor if necessary. So I still haven't found what I'm looking for, taken quite literally. What does it take to make the rotor work when pressing this switch? And you can see the LED lighting up, and that's when pressing the switch once again. So a few things to find out, and that I'll carry on to next time. So a few things. LED works, circuit works. I'm not sure about this thing. The switch isn't really showing here, while it definitely should. This is of course exactly the output from here. And then again, does this work? Yes, it does. Although not the way I like, because I should like it to get false and true, and that it doesn't do. Because whether this being 0 or 1, the LED with the transistor keeps burning, and that's not what I like. Okay, thank you for watching. If you like this video and like my other videos, please consider please subscribe to my channel. If you like my videos and blog, please consider to make a small donation. For more info, please visit my website, and please also see Twitter and Instagram. You can find it via my website as well. And this is certainly to be continued. Bye bye.